The Justice Department is ramping up its criminal investigation into former President Trump's lawyers' efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. A federal grand jury has issued a series of subpoenas for information on several of the former president's legal team, including his personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, and Mr. Trump's legal advisor, John Eastman. Federal prosecutors are looking to obtain new information to understand if Mr. Trump's allies proposed alternate slates of electors as part of an effort to deny President Joe Biden's victory in several key swing states. So joining us now for more on this is Luke Broadwater. He's congressional correspondent at the New York Times and co-authored this article. Luke, great to see you. Let's do a little bit of a crash course in the slate of electors. Generally speaking, how are electors typically selected, and why might this inquiry be significant?
Right. Well, so typically what happens in most states is on December 14th after an election, the slates of electors will meet in a state and they will certify the election for whoever the voters chose. So typically that's, a non-controversial process, and the person who has the most votes gets the slate of electors. Those certificates are then sent to the National Archives and sent to Congress, and Congress then certifies the election on January 6th. What happened in this case is that as Donald Trump and his allies were coming up with plans to try to keep Donald Trump in power, they thought one way to do that was to have slates of alternate electors. And they looked back at elections that had happened in the 1800s. And when there were actually contested elections in states and two sets of electors were put forth. And they thought they could replicate that simply by claiming widespread fraud. So they had Republican slates of electors meet on December 14th and certify those states' elections for Donald Trump, even though he had lost those states, even though Joe Biden had won those states. And so those documents were then sent to the National Archives. And what's under investigation now is whether that could constitute a crime, whether submitting these fake documents, putting forth electors for Donald Trump in states won by Joe Biden could actually be in violation of federal or state law.
And look, are there any circumstances under which someone could actually submit a slate of electors? Is there any situation where that could be possible?
Yes. I mean, let's say there was actually a contested election. Let's say there were such problems in an election where it came down to only a handful of votes. The state legislature certified it for one person. The governor certified it for another. There was a dispute, and two official slates of electors were sent to Congress. Then it would be up to Congress to adjudicate that. And so that's what the situation the Trump team was trying to create. Now, of course, there were not legitimate objections to this election. There was not widespread fraud. And so they tried to set up a situation in which they could create this sort of constitutional crisis with multiple slates of electors. The problem for them, though, was that no state legislature and no governor went along with it. So they did not have actually a second official slates. They just had this slate from sort of an ad hoc group of people that they had put up to this. So, it did not actually get a vote on the floor of the House. As you recall, Mike Pence, who was presiding over the January 6th proceedings, said there was only one official slate of electors put forward from these slates, and he did not then throw those out in favor of another slate, as Donald Trump had wanted him to do. But yeah, I mean, this is now a matter for the Justice Department to investigate.
And what exactly is the Justice Department investigating here?
Right. So we know that subpoenas have gone out to the so-called fake electors or alternate electors, and they are asking these electors for any information they had, any documents, any conversations they had with anyone on the Trump legal team. And they sent them a list of various lawyers: Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Jenna Ellis, even people, lesser-known lawyers who wrote some of the earliest memos about how the alternate elector scheme or fake elector scheme could work. And so I think what they're trying to do is see exactly how much the Trump campaign put these people up to doing this. And then what they're going to do is they're going to analyze state and federal laws. They're going to analyze the documents and see whether anything that was put forward does actually constitute a fraud on the American people or a crime against the states in question.
And do you have any sense of a timeline? And if they are able to show what the prosecution is trying to show, any sense of what happens next?
Yeah, well, we know this Justice Department investigation has been chugging along. It started going after sort of the lower level rioters at first. More than 700 people have been arrested in those cases. And now it seems as though they're working backwards from January 6th into the causes of January 6th and looking at what other crimes could have been committed by the political, legislative, or executive actors. We know subpoenas have gone out to rally planners. We now know that subpoenas have gone out to the so-called fake electors. We know they're asking about the lawyers. So it does seem like this, some Democrats have said this investigation is moving too slowly. They want to see it speed up. But it does look like they are starting to move their way away from just the violence and into the more political machinations that accompanied the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
A year and a half later, still so many questions and so many layers to this investigation. Luke Broadwater, thank you so much for explaining all of that for us. We appreciate your reporting.
Thank you.